to the Tuesday, September 6, 2022 meeting of the Affordable Housing Committee here in the Nauset Room, in-person meeting. In attendance, we have today Fran McLennan, Bill Stockert, Liz Payne, Susan Carlson, and myself, the Chair, Nancy Wren. Our first order of business is to reorganize ourselves for the leadership of the committee, so I will take in a nomination for the chair of the committee.
Nominate Nancy Wren as chair of the committee.
I'll second that.
I'll third that.
Are there any other nominations from the floor?
It's kind of you to agree.
So we vote for that. I don't really need a roll call because we're all here.
Yeah.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 4-0-1. And now a recommendation for our vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Bill Stockert.
Yes. Second that. Any other nominations from the floor? All right, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And for clerk, I nominate Nancy James, and she has agreed. I talked to her prior to this meeting, so
Great.
no surprises. Do we have any other nominations from the floor?
I'll second that one.
Second, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And so the team continues for another year.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
All right, thank you all, everybody. Okay. The main business for today is to review the RFP that Marcia, our housing coordinator, has prepared for us. The purpose of this RFP is to get a consultant to update and quantify needs of the housing needs in the current manner and see how they are, they fit with the data from our 2017 survey, and also to add supplementary data that we've since discovered that we might like to know more about and how housing has been affected between these two periods of time. From this study, which will be basically a needs study, we will develop goals and policy on this committee and in conjunction with the Affordable Housing Trust Board. So I'm going to read the deliverables from each of these tasks for the purpose that, the reason is that following me reading these, there are several deliverables that Marcia thought might be possible to work with the Affordable Housing Trust Board, because we presented this as a request to the trust board for supplying the funding for this, and they wanted to have more involvement in this at a previous meeting that we had in June. So after that discussion and discussions with Ward Gorey as well, I sent their considerations to Marcia. Marcia added them in as a possibility, but before we add them in, it's important that we as a committee discuss if we agree with that, if that's how we want to send it forward, and then if we do, then she will send it to the Affordable Housing Trust Board for their approval. But the first step is to go through this committee and to agree that we agree to that. So, and I think just by reading it, I don't want to read this whole RFP because hopefully you've all read that, but when I read the deliverable and you have any questions about anything that might have been in this I'm looking at the 8.2, 8.1, 8.2 area. If you have any questions about anything that you think is missing or anything you would like to add or take out, this is the time to do this, all right? So hopefully everybody's sort of scanned it enough to have an idea of what's included. Okay, sorry. First task was the data collection plan, And the deliverable for that one is to report on selection and definition of key housing need indicators that should be analyzed and monitored to track progress, available data sources, and possible additional data collection measures to be discussed with the Affordable Housing Committee, resulting in an accepted data collection plan. So,
So you last did this in 2017?
yes.
When you evaluated this, did you look to see whether or not you'd had actually accomplished some of the deliverables that were pointed out? Or some of the, recommendations that were pointed out?
Our goal from the committee was to get 100 new units in 10 years. 85 rentals, 85 rentals and 15 home ownerships.
Yep.
So we are closing in on that goal in terms of, we thought it was a big goal for the beginning, but we've got 3 projects.
So,
Underway.
and of those, are they income-specific that are pointed out in the 2017 study? Because I noticed here you're expanding up to 120 and 150.
That is one of our hopes, to find out more information. We're not able to expand up to there right now, but we're hoping that the information that we get from the study will lead to some kind of policy
Okay.
and some goal, because we realize that that's the piece that is missing, that we can't address right now. And a little later, we'll talk about the trust board's possible warrant to move this ahead as well. So
Okay.
the thought was to get this information during the study, because we know it's a concern for our community, that this is a piece that we've got to address in some level.
Okay. And so those are all 80% AMI units that you're discussing from the 2017?
Up to 80%, yes.
Okay.
Oh, we have 2 workforce, but
Up to 100%.
Up to
100% because we can use the Community Preservation Committee, can take us up to 100%, so we can use both of those.
Okay. Just wondering.
Is that okay?
Yeah. It's just interesting because we've included, I say we, Provincetown has included up to 150 since 2017. So when I saw that you're expanding it, I was just verifying that it wasn't included in your 2017 one.
It was not. Thank you. Provincetown is ahead of us on many areas, and we are
Yes.
really, and we are very glad, the regional approach to this program is critical, and we've all been trying to do that through CDP and all of our trainings and our talkings and our requests from different towns to support other people's projects.
Yep.
And so we are thrilled that you are coming on as an Orleans resident with Provincetown background. We talked before.
Yes.
And I think that, we look forward to you sending information our way that can be helpful for us to continue this journey, so.
Yeah, I think it's,
Nancy, I would be reminded that
Hi,
the,
Jeff.
Oh, hi. We just- did you spirit him in?
Want to be so conspicuous. Stop looking at
Well, I'm sorry, but your name just was floated prior to this
Yes,
meeting as a
right.
possibility of somebody who might be interested, and then you had appeared, so I consider that a spirit sign.
It's a good omen.
I'm Nancy Wren, Chairman of the committee, welcome. So I can get your phone number from yourself.
say that I had to vote in Orleans for the first time in my life.
Well,
Good.
So that was,
welcome to our town.
Could we welcome Liz and maybe have her tell us a little bit about herself? Since I'm picking up things as we
Yes.
move along.
I was going to
but-
do that with the future agenda items.
I'm
Because I have
sorry.
a sense that she has a bunch of future agenda items for me. Is
not,
that
not this meeting, but I will.
This meeting, really? I
We
was
could do
hoping.
this meeting.
Nancy,
Yes.
since we're on the topic of housing for missing middle or housing above the affordable rate, and we are, or the trust has been considering whether or not to put a warrant article into the special town meeting this fall to set up another part of the trust that would allow for raising funds for the purpose of supporting housing for those who are above the 100% AMI level that we can be responsible for. So, however, at the meeting, I think the trust is not quite ready to move in that direction. They voted 4-4 for the article, so given that they didn't have a majority, it didn't pass.
Oh, I missed that.
So I think that they would welcome more conversation in our committee and more conversation in the community in general to perhaps move that agenda item forward in a way that would be acceptable to everybody,
The idea of doing this at the Maytown meeting,
potential.
nothing for October then. So-
Nothing for October.
All right.
Interesting.
That would be a tight turnaround,
What?
but it is possible.
For the May meeting?
October,
Oh, October, no, that
warrants
was,
closed 30 days prior to,
Yeah,
right,
probably won't happen.
yeah.
Nancy?
Yes.
yes.
Can I just add to that? I had a meeting with Scott this morning, and again, with the hiring and trying to retain staff, both for school and town employees, nothing is abated in the crisis, and he is absolutely willing, if you go in any direction and you want him to be available to speak to you or to the public, he is happy to be more active as an advocate for any forward movement on this.
Scott
McDonald.
McDonald, okay.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
we've had,
He wants to be a partner in this conversation.
I hear you, we've had several meetings with him
Yeah.
up till now, trying to find a way through this, and actually, I thought this was actually moving forward, so I missed that piece.
It's not quite there yet.
But it's, I can't imagine that we're not going to have some community interest in this if we can sell
I'm
it.
happy to give you lots of ideas to discuss.
Great.
All right, well, I think we've already
Need
got our
them.
future agenda for next week.
Yeah,
Yes, definitely.
might scare Marcia, but that's okay.
Okay. I will let you have your moment in the sun.
No
but
worries.
I was thinking of just doing it a little later because I
Not a
wanted to get
problem.
through this.
Okay.
Yep, I've
It's
been,
on my
I've
list.
been, that was the only thing really that stood out to me was that the 2017 and then the expanding. I think that for the income that you have for people that are in the Cape and working on the Cape, especially when you're looking at what the pay is for currently, you know, what people are making even at Stop and Shop, and then if you were to calculate that out as a single person, due to the employee, you know, shortage, it's basically driving up the price in the sense of their salary, and so now we're incoming out our employees who previously could qualify for units. And if we are not actively working on those income qualifications now, then we are pricing them out of units that we are currently building now. So that is a crisis that is currently happening. I can calculate it out in my head what a single mom of one child would be making for 40 hours a week for 24 hours, you know, or $24 an hour, and they no longer qualify for Habitat homes. So that's just like something that I've seen from people offering me employment. I already have a job, so I appreciate it. But like, that's where my brain goes. The moment they tell me what they're willing to pay, I go to, I know Habitat's building homes. I know that is, you know, a lot of times the homes are being, you know, single-family income households with single parents. If you're a two-household family making that amount of money, there's no way that you're going to qualify for that unless you have one of the parents not working. And so I see that a lot, that we've now just given raises across the board. We're doing compensation increases. Stop and Shop is now making, you know, employees, they're paying them more money, and we are incoming our workforce out very quickly.
But doesn't the area median income then rise?
It hasn't increased as quickly on the Outer Cape, and so we are Barnstable County, and we are a county-wide. So unless the town is going to take ownership of the income for Orleans and Orleans residents and do that as a fully funded and not HUD funding, then we are restricted by what we are given by the state.
So one of the,
Sorry for going way off topic.
No,
apologize.
but one of the hangups for the trust was they were going for, in the draft warrant article they were discussing, they had put in 150%. And so I think one of the things that people were wrestling with is, well, what is the correct percent?
Right.
So that was something that needed more discussion. And it makes me wonder whether we want to specify in this RFP, Marcia says up to 120 and 150%. Do we want to exclude that it could be higher, or do we want to specify at all?
So the state actually does have qualifications. If you look at market rate housing, workforce housing, and affordable housing, I haven't seen it be called low income and moderate income in Provincetown in a while. So that might be my suggestion, is that you include the 3 qualifications of the state, which would be affordable, workforce, and
Right. That makes
market
sense.
rate.
Yeah.
And those are all, again, that is what, when you're looking at obtaining funding from different sources, they're going to be looking at when they discuss it. And then there's also an understanding that if you are going to go gear towards more market rate units, that's a higher subsidy that the town is going to have to participate in, and that would be where you would want the trust to come in and discuss, what their contribution to a project might be.
I think one of the things we were trying to stay away from is the use of the term workforce housing. You make a good point that that's defined by the state.
Yes.
It's already
But
out
I think
there.
it's unfortunate because obviously people who are income qualified for affordable housing are indeed working people.
Right.
So it's a very misleading term, which we've been trying to stay away from.
Right. And so I always look at it like what the state gives us is the term that I will use, and until the state changes that, that's kind of how I look at that.
What was the third
Are you
one? It was
saying-
affordable, workforce, and
Market rate.
Market rate.
market rate.
Are you saying not to put the percentages in and put those terms in instead?
I would do the terms because then because if the state is able to change the percentage, so
Right.
I do know that that is a conversation that has been happening at Julian Sears's office and Sarah Peak's office about evaluating those percentages and what we can do about it, because it does affect the funding and the ability to utilize the funding, because that's all restricted by the state. And so those are discussions that are already happening that are being pushed by other communities. And if they change it and you don't have it written down, the terminology, then we are restricted by the incomes that you've spelled out.
You've already spelled out, yeah. Okay.
Well, you've already added a lot at your first meeting, and I appreciate that. So keep it coming.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anytime you want me to shut down, just let
Oh,
me know.
no, I run this committee like a conversation. It's not my committee, it's everybody who can participate, so I would hope that you would feel comfortable doing that. Anything else on this one, then?
Nope.
All right, number 2, data analysis. Report on updated housing need indicators that should be regularly monitored, including explanation of changes since the 2017 study, report on the nature of homeowner and rental housing needs, presentation of reports to AHC. Anything stand out there to anybody? Fran?
Yeah. One Cape was the 2-day conference offered by the Cape Cod Commission that happened in August sometime. And at that conference, they announced that the Cape Cod Commission will be doing data collection on a town-by-town basis. So I think that we would want to encourage Marcia to collaborate, or the consultant to collaborate and not be redundant in the data collection, but collaborate with the Cape Cod Commission, who is also working on this.
I did not bring it to this meeting, but Marcia did send me their RFP for what they are doing. And I looked at it, and rather than confusing the issue with 2 different RFPs, there's a lot of similarities, and she's already aware of that because of how we can dovetail these 2 things and build on them. But,
Good.
so everybody's on the same page here. It seems like we should be able to get some momentum going, don't you think? Please. Okay, deliverable number 3 was housing stock goals. And this is when we got into the discussion with the Affordable Housing Trust Board, because the word goals was used. And who sets the goals, and what do we use for our basis for our goals? The deliverable for this one is to report on current numbers and recommend long-term percentage goals for affordable and community housing within the context of low and moderate income housing, presented to the AHC, possibly jointly with the AHTB.
Okay.
So, sort of, it might go back to what you were talking about, Liz, a little bit, too.
Yeah, that's my only thought, is that you would add in the third, just so that there is that defined division in the state. So I think most consultants who are going to be working on the Cape, and, when you're
Well,
working with them, will know that you're really looking for that division of the 3, because there is a difference. It's a big difference.
Great.
Okay.
And most units or I should say, a lot of the projects that I've been seeing, the one that comes to mind right now is the Nauset Green project that was done in Eastham, that actually had the 3 different income qualifications. So you had your your 80% AMI, and then I think they had a medium income, and then they have their market rate units that they do as well.
Okay.
And that allows people to get raises without fear of losing housing.
Well,
So
that-
that is one of the things that you take into consideration when you're doing a project, is that if you're in a unit that only does a certain percentage, or that complex only does a certain percentage, there is the ability for them to remove you from those units.
That is a huge point.
Whereas
and
the
that's
more
been in the-
generic term is more flexible, like workforce housing?
Well, so my understanding is that if you go into Nauset Green and you are in a certain income bracket, and then you get a raise at your job and you start making more money, that they simply go in and reevaluate your income, and then they say, okay, this is what you're paying for rent. They don't give you the notice that you have to leave, which does happen at other units.
You have percentage
Wow.
attached with it.
Yes. Yeah.
That's an
interesting.
extremely critical point.
Yes.
We have not really been dealing with before, but we all know what happens to people who get a raise.
Right.
Right.
Or who have their summer earnings affected by the whole year,
Yep.
so.
I would suggest we take out the word possibly jointly with the trust board. They were pretty adamant that this was an issue that they raised with us as being part of the establishment of those goals. So, I don't know, are we saying possibly, is it,
Well, the possibly was, as Marcia's, this is a draft.
oh, no, I realize that.
The possibly was for us to discuss the 3
Right.
areas and to say if we wanted to include them or not include them. How many joint meetings do we want to have
Right.
during the year?
I think if your goal is to get them on the same page and not to have a 4-4 split vote, I would say a lot of joint meetings.
I think so. I mean, the whole point of us trying to work together for this last couple of years has been to get us on the same
Yeah.
page and to know that our goals
Yeah.
need to be done, so,
That's why I'm suggesting taking out the word possibly.
okay.
I think the deliverables don't necessarily go in the RFP though, right? That's just internal, or no?
Not according to her.
Oh, they do?
Yeah,
Okay.
this is
Yeah.
Well,
her.
that's why I was wondering, sorry.
Okay.
I've never seen that in one of that I've done.
Well, unfortunately, Marcia's
That's
not
fine.
here today, so I'm doing the best I can with what she's written. She could defend herself, but she can't, so we'll assume
That's
that's
all
why
right.
she put it in there.
Everyone does things slightly different. Each town has their own quirks.
Housing production goals is the next one, and the deliverable is recommended 10-year housing plan and protocols for counting units presented to the AHC, possibly jointly with the AHTB. So that's the same thing. We had a discussion actually about a 10-year plan and a 5-year plan, if you recall, at that meeting, and I guess it was determined that the 10-year plan is better. I'm not exactly sure if we discussed that or agreed to that, or,
I think 10-year plans are usually more realistic, but one of the things that I think is important when you're discussing a 10-year plan is the benchmarks that you should be hitting every year. So if that's not in the 10-year plan, it should be added in. And the reason I say that is because when I think about things, we talked about, again, a town meeting. I work backwards. So if I wanted to get a warrant article onto the October town meeting, what would I have to be doing backwards? So if my goal was to hit something in 10 years, what are the steps that I need to do, in the previous 9 years? And which meetings do I need to accomplish it? And then taking into consideration the time frame when you're building these units, all that kind of stuff. So that's just me. So I think if that's, 10 years is more realistic, but they need to, the timeline should spell out the benchmarks that they're expecting the town.
I think that's her intention, is to find data points that can be updated annually or semi-annually.
Yeah, she said that in the
along the
next.
way.
Right.
Yeah, and it's good too for us because then you can look at it and say, okay, this is the subject and this is the topic of conversation that you want me to accomplish within 1 year. And it sort of holds us accountable.
And the next 8.2.5 talks about identifying those updates and providing those updates and reports, so it probably, benchmarks could probably be included in that.
okay. You just said deliverable number 5, so that's good. So I would say, and that's also another joint one. So do we
Yeah.
agree that 3, 4, and 5 can be joint meetings with the trust?
Yeah,
I
think
do believe that, because I think, when we started this a few years ago, we started with the study. We didn't know exactly what we wanted to know, but we knew we needed to know. So, and we took that and we made a goal, and the select board approved that goal. And then fortuitously, prior to that time, there was no land, there was nothing to build on in Orleans. And then suddenly, there was the Cape Cod 5
Yep,
and 107 Main.
Yep.
And Governor Prince, all of a sudden. So we're at a different point than we were then, and we really do have to say, how do we get this acting? We have a plan of action that is somehow going to be realized sometime in 2024, hopefully, but still, we've got to keep moving in terms of other options and other ways to find housing in the meantime. So
yep.
I think that'll all be good.
Yes, Nancy, before we go on,
Sure.
so Liz's recommendation that we use sort of those 3 terms, is that something we want to substitute in for 8.2.1, the affordable workforce housing market rate, instead of the percentage
That's
of
what
area
I,
median
that-
income?
that's
I
the
wasn't
note that I
quite
made.
clear.
That's the
Okay.
note that I made, that we put those in, find out more about that, and then
Okay.
take out the actual
Talk
numbers.
with Marcia and, okay.
Yeah.
deliverable 3 is same, because that mentions low and moderate
Right.
income, and I think Liz.
Yeah, I said add the
Okay.
3 levels to that
Yeah.
as well, so I think that's a really good addition, and it gives us flexibility, and it doesn't lock us into something, which is what we don't want to lock ourselves in. We're trying to broaden our
Yeah.
scope, not minimize it, and I think that's where we're going. Okay. Going back to the front part, excuse me, on the first page, the consultant selection on number 4, update to housing needs, where that starts. The selection committee would consist of 2 members of the Affordable Housing Committee, Director of Community Planning, who's George Meservey, and the Affordable Housing Coordinator, who is Marcia. That would be the selection committee. The question before the group is, do we want to have an Affordable Housing Trust Board member on this committee as well?
I'm in favor of that. Again, just for partnering.
I think it makes sense if you're going to be doing joint meetings and joint evaluations.
Invited them, yeah, they can be part of the deliverable discussions.
Right, so I think there'll be a person
Yeah.
who's representing at that as well, so.
Mhm.
I don't think there was ever a concern that we didn't want to work with them. I just believed it came up and we hadn't thought about it because we were thinking this was primarily a numbers analysis activity, and now we've broadened it to a goal setting, a resulting goal setting as well, so. Are there any other comments about this? I think those were the areas that I was concerned about.
I just noticed, I think I replied in
Cape
an email, on the front page, the request for proposals, it says date of advertisement as 2022, and then it says Cape Codder. Is it limited to the Cape Cod? Why would it be limited to the Cape Cod? It shouldn't be limited to the Cape
So
Codder.
the clerk-
Considering,
The clerk's office is required by law to post in a approved local publication, and I would speak without confirming this, but my local publication is going to be the Cape Codder, and then they would also be posted in the Register, which is a little bit different.
what determines local,
So for example, Provincetown does it through the Independent.
right?
Because it's distributed in Provincetown.
Right,
And
right.
we have, and also goes up to Truro and things like that. But that is the newspaper that the select board has chosen, and, whatever. So my assumption would probably be something like that, that the Cape Codder is the one.
No.
No,
No?
no longer.
No
The-
longer.
Oh.
This is public information here. Our agreement in Orleans is with the Chronicle,
Good.
and we have online listings.
Yeah, that's what I would
That
say. It's
Okay.
like,
is
we
with the state.
usually, yeah, the state usually does it,
Yeah.
and then you have to do a local one.
Yeah,
Right.
So
and
we
the
can use the
Chronicles are
Chronicle.
So it would be the
local platform.
Chronicle.
Yeah.
Okay,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Anything else? And then you said you found some numbering pages, but
Yeah, I
that would
just
be
noticed some of
something
the
that she
pages
will-
when I was, maybe it was my printer, but there didn't seem to be numbers on every page.
We will,
Nancy, I just had a question about the fee proposal form. It's, to me, this read as though this was specific to Governor Prince's study.
I'm
As
sorry,
opposed-
where are you?
Where is that?
It's the fee proposal form. It's right after the proposal cover sheet. I don't know if we're that far.
It does say Governor Prince redevelopment plan and
And
scopes
I
of service, so that
first
has to
read
be
base
updated.
budget of 94,000. I thought, that doesn't sound right.
I do not see that, and I still can't find it.
It's right after the proposal cover sheet and signature form. It's on the back of that.
On the
Is there a
back.
page number on that?
Nope.
No, it's
Okay.
just, well, it looks like it might be 14, but the
Oh,
4
okay,
is
I didn't print
obscured.
out that far.
Fee proposal form.
I'm not having any luck at all.
14, do you have
Did you
page
find it?
14? No, do you have page 14? Fran?
Well, you know, I might not have printed that out because
didn't
I
either.
wasn't, I was
Okay.
mostly concerned.
You know what?
with the-
Let me just
I think it's on page 10.
pass that over.
It's page 10
10.
Oh, it's page 10?
of the packet.
I think I was stuck on the deliverables, and I printed, this was 29-page
Right,
activity.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, if you print it, it's on page 10. So I think it just, there's slight,
Jeez. That's a good catch. That's a really good catch. Thank you. Everybody's
welcome.
earning their weight today. I should have brought stickers. Used to be an elementary school teacher. Good, thank you. I'm going to keep this, okay? Thank you. All right, anybody else want to show their brilliance? I'm trying hard, people.
You're doing good.
You're doing great.
You're doing great.
Okay. Okay, I think that's, are we happy with this then? I'll meet with Marcia when she gets back and go over all this and send it out to you again. And then we'll send it over to the trust board as well, and hopefully they will find it suitable. And
What's your best guess as to $40,000 budget, how many companies will, or people will attract? It's funny, the more I read the request, the more I think, wow, we're asking for a lot. But I have no idea what sort of the going rate for,
well, she seemed to have got this information from George, and he felt that
Yeah.
it was good for what we needed at this time. I don't know.
guess we'll see.
That's where the
you know who did
number.
the last study?
Pardon me?
You know who did the last study?
Oh, geez.
I don't remember, but
Yes, I do. Sonnenberg, Susan? No. Oh, my gosh.
Karen Sonnenberg.
Karen Sonnenberg. Takes two people to get one name. She worked with Mass Housing Partnership as well, didn't she? I got her from that
Yeah.
group.
I mean, my experience has usually been that these are like specialty consultants, and there's usually the same people are working with all the same groups. You know, you might see like UMass Boston might be involved, or the Collins Center, or, you know, the Mass Housing, and they're generally, the costs are all very known in the sense, you know, same thing with like a fire department evaluation, it's usually, they all know the price, so if George is saying
I'm
this
going
is
to, I'm going to
the price, then yeah.
assume George knows that, that's his
Right.
area, so.
budget might be relooked at when we consider what is the Cape Cod Commission doing, and if indeed there's some things that the Cape Cod Commission is doing that this consultant wouldn't do, then you might adjust the budget. So I agree, I think, George, to have a relook at it would be a good idea.
Okay. Good work. I'm impressed that everybody read that and had things to offer. That's excellent. So, all right.
Okay, what's the time frame for getting this?
Well, I'm hoping when Marcia gets back, it'll be fixed and sent to the trust board, and as soon as they approve it, then it'll go out. So that would be, that's the goal. Got a little delayed this summer, but I think we'll be able to get right on it once it happened. Okay. I noticed that even Cape Cod Community College is sending out money, things for raising money for a STEM program, and they've got a whole page on affordable housing and the blue economy and economic development and all of these things. So everybody's singing the same song here. hopefully we'll all start hearing it. So, okay. I'll let you do the Governor Prince, and then I'll do the other piece after that, okay?
Okay.
'Cause that's how I wrote the agenda. So, Fran is our representative to the Governor Prince Committee, and she's going to give us an update on the latest.
Okay. So the Governor Prince Committee began, this is a planning committee that was established by the Select Board and the Trust to assess the 5.5 acre Governor Prince property that was purchased by the town in May of last year, a year ago. So the committee has started its work in October. We hired a consultant to help us with that work, and we have completed our work, our report to the Select Board with recommendations, and we will be delivering those recommendations to the Select Board and the Trust on October 19th. The consultants helped us in doing a site analysis, in doing thorough public engagement, which included surveys, community meetings, focus groups, and a number of other ways to engage different aspects of the community for what is it that people want to see on this property of Governor Prince. So we, the committee, have agreed on the parameters that we believe should be the recommendations to the Select Board, and we developed those parameters based on the work of the consultants. And so the draft consulting report was due at the end of August, but it will not be completed by the consultants because they had a staff member leave. So now the date for the completion of the consultant report is the end of September. And we will have the committee will have a meeting to look at the draft of that report, and then it will, as I say, be delivered to the Trust and the Select Board at a meeting I believe has been tentatively scheduled for the 19th of October. So I wanted to talk with you about the recommendations, the parameters that the committee has come up with. So essentially, one of the hard decisions that we looked at in multiple directions was what should this site be used for? Yes, affordable housing, but what other opportunities would present themselves? And namely, the warrant articles specifically stated municipal uses. And so there was the discussion around a fire station and a library, both of which I think the Select Board voted not to include the Governor Prince as a possible site for those. And then the other potential would have been the community center group was discussing feasibility for a community center and what would that involve. Although it did not, their charge did not include a recommendation of a site, so they weren't looking at sites. So we ended up meeting with that committee, the Community Center Study Committee, and ultimately the bottom line is that we received no proposal from any group for any other use on that site other than affordable housing. So we we voted to have that site used for housing only. But we did not necessarily restrict it to affordable housing because the committee did receive a lot of feedback from employers in town and others about the need that we've been talking about earlier tonight, about the need for housing for people who don't qualify for subsidized affordable housing. And so, although it isn't defined as a municipal use, if you will, we felt that to include recommendations that included that kind of housing would be certainly fulfilling a need of the community. And so, let me read you just a bit of our recommendation. The housing development should be this is from our draft report, which is, I think, now a final report. This will go along with the presentation of the consultant to the Select Board and the Trust on October 19th. So there's time to adjust this if we need to, but I think it's pretty much final. We've done multiple drafts on this. The housing developed should be affordable housing and qualify for federal and state low-income tax housing credits and maximum state grant funding. A potential developer should vigorously pursue maximum external funding and consider partnership with other agencies to make the best project possible. The request for proposal should be flexible to allow proposals that also accommodate housing for households above tax credit income limits, as well as home ownership. The town should also consider creative proposals that include market rate housing to the extent that the overall project is most beneficial to the community. So that's the wording. We wanted to recommend that an RFP be as flexible as possible, because there is no designated funding for housing above the affordable, or there's not much of it anyway, housing above the affordable limits. So it is possible for developers to create a financing product that allows for income to them that will allow for affordable component as well as for higher tax market rate housing that could help to subsidize internally the housing above the affordable, i.e. the missing middle. So we wanted to leave home ownership and no necessarily limit on the percentage of AMI at all. So that's our recommendation regarding who is the housing for. And to go on, we felt it was extremely important that the overall development be attractive, consistent with community character, environmentally responsible, and a long-term asset for the Orleans community. So the design is something we talked about a lot, and the importance of it being attractive and fitting in with the community. And so that feels very important to us. And if the other parameters need to be adjusted to accommodate that design, we are open to that. Next, the site should be developed to the highest density, and zoning there allows up to 77 units. So you see there's plenty of room, if there's 77 possible units, to have a tax credit program that would be maybe 40, 50 units of affordable housing, and then allow for some other housing that could be incorporated into the site. Buildings should be generally multi-family, up to 3 stories in height, and the site should aim to reduce site coverage and paved areas, retaining internal open space as much as possible. And the last, I'm reading just pieces of this to you. The development should embody features that create a livable neighborhood with adequate internal open space, places to interact with family and neighbors, such as a clubhouse or a neighborhood center, connection to the rail trail for commuting and recreation, and adequate infrastructure along Route 6A and in the internal site. And those are our basic recommendations. And will be brought forward, as I say, to the trust and the select board on October 19th. But I have an issue I just wanted to share with you, and I am considering going to public comment at the select board meeting tomorrow evening, because the timing of this is awkward, given that the consultants are not able to complete their
I was going to ask.
their final report as we had expected, moving toward the special town meeting. So in fact, the special town meeting is on October 17th, and these recommendations don't go to the select board and to the trust until the 19th. And so my concern about that is that the timing is awkward. We haven't had time to have conversation with community and the deciding boards, the select board and the housing trust, before this warrant article is being asked to be voted on. And so
The warrant article is for the demolition or for the?
no, this is for the article for the,
Okay.
the warrant article is a warrant article 19 for the special town meeting that they're going to be voting on tomorrow evening. And that is an article that is for the disposal
Disposition
of the
land.
public asset
Okay.
for housing.
Oh, okay.
And not only does that warrant article say disposal of the asset for affordable, for housing, it says affordable and other categories, but it does not list market rate. So if it gets passed, it eliminates the committee's wish to have a more flexible RFP that could accommodate market rate housing, should that be something.
Which goes back to our previous discussion, which is really critical.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. So I think that there's a possibility the select board could consider adjusting the wording of the warrant article. On the other hand, and I think probably my preference would be to postpone that article until May, and I'll tell you why. There was concern on everyone's part, I think, to move this forward as fast as we possibly can. So Nancy, when you asked me to dig into the details of where are we in all these projects, I actually went through and figured out a timeline, a potential possible timeline for the Governor Prince development project. And when you go through and you think of the votes that need to happen, the funding that needs to be approved, on and on and on, we are not going to be looking at people living at this site until the spring of 2028 or the spring of 2029. It is a long-term process.
Oh, my goodness.
So when the select board voted not to pursue demolition at this time in the fall town meeting, they postponed it to the spring town meeting. So that postpones everything. So it is not essential at this time to actually have this warrant Article 19 to dispose of the property. It could easily wait until May, in my personal opinion, and then allow us to have the conversation about the recommendations of the Governor Prince. Now, I'm saying all of this is not out of any committee that I'm sitting on. It is all my stuff.
Okay.
But it connects with that committee and you being on this committee and
Right.
following the trust and following our idea of this timeline, all of these things, you have the background to speak about this because they're converging now and we're trying, this is what we're trying to do, is see where we are and how we can get there faster or not.
Yeah.
Andrea
2028
has to leave
sounds
at
late.
No,
5:30, so.
I just
Oh,
had a
okay.
response
All
to
right.
Fran, what Fran
Oh.
is talking about.
Can I say something before you respond? I would actually,
Madam
Well,
Chair.
no, I think she needs to,
Oh, you go first.
No, I go by
Okay, well,
whatever
after
the chair wants.
I thought as the select board, whatever is happening with the thing.
Sorry.
You may speak.
I actually think the demolition has no correlation of a project.
It's the timing of the
So,
demolition.
and I understand that. I actually would look at it like, I think that the language around anything going on that should not be included in a demolition of a property.
Here's why it's relevant. You can't put out an RFP before you've decided whether the site will be demolished or not. And so it was a matter of the timing of putting out the RFP.
So is that a process of Orleans then,
Yeah.
that you can't demolish a property?
No,
prior-
no.
No, we had.
You can't
we
put
need
out an
funding.
RFP before you know what you're
If they're
putting
getting
out
a
an
clean-
RFP
if
for.
they're getting a clean site or a site with buildings on it, that's the issue.
Hmm.
So, for the developer.
So does the RFP include demolition, or does it ask the developer to do the demolition? You-
I understand now, yes.
Nancy, can I comment?
Yes,
On
please.
Fran's point, I share her concern, and had already, the language of that warrant article bothered me, and I was good at, my plan was to raise it tomorrow night and confirm with Mike Ford if the language restricts us, and if it did, to please insert market rate. But with Liz's contributions today, there is, maybe all of our thinking has to come up with the vocabulary we use to be the most flexible in town. And so to use the three categories that the state uses without taking away any of the work, I think we all want the most flexible thing possible. So I would defer, I would agree that, but again, we're not deliberating here, I'm not in the select board meeting, but I agree with you that if the language passes, if the language doesn't allow legally the leeway we seek for that flexible development, then we need to change the language.
Or
So-
postpone it and-
Yeah,
and bring
either
it to,
way.
and bring it to
Either
May.
Yeah, either way. So I just want to
Yeah.
acknowledge that your concern is shared.
Okay, thank you.
Just
But
had
let
a
me just, let's
logistic-
just going on that, though, if this discussion occurs at the select board meeting tomorrow, and they decide, let's leave it in there anyway and see what happens, I think that's misleading in terms of what we're actually learning and trying to do through the trust in the changing some of this language here. I was extremely happy to hear you say that the market rate piece was in that, because that was not the original discussion for quite a while. And I'm speaking as a person, not as the chair of this committee. But the fact that you put that in is critical to me and my feelings about the Governor Prince property.
Yeah, it's
And I would
okay.
not want us to be locked into something that we cannot do that, because that was a big step, I think, for that committee to come to that
Yeah.
at this point in time.
The legal concern is that market rate is not a municipal use. We're kind of, we have to make sure that when we say the previous warrant was based and voted at town meeting on municipal use, and so can we cover market rate when it's used to balance or subsidize something? Can we kind of get that legal term, because then it would be perceived as public investment in a private money-making
Yeah.
development. So that's why we just need to clarify everything with Mike Ford about the
Okay.
whole language of the article.
I think when it comes to using the money from the trust, it only can go for the affordable
Right.
part of a project. Whatever may get proposed for over and above that affordable program is not going to receive any town funding, particularly because the trust didn't vote to establish another fund.
We're
Part.
dancing on the head of a pin here.
Yeah.
You know, because the question is it a legal use of municipal funds to, it won't be subsidizing, but can the town use the previous constraints of last year's warrant article with the purchase of the Governor Prince can market rate fit in as part of that blend, even though technically it's not usually an investment of of a government agency.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the trust piece of it.
Right.
That's the concern
it's a
in the
legal issue.
language.
It's a
Yeah.
There's no ability for the town to subsidize market rate.
No.
Liz wants to say
I have a question. What's preventing the town from retaining ownership of this project and running it as a town-based rental?
The town has no desire
No
to do
desire
that.
to
So
There's no
when we talk
appetite.
about what municipal needs are,
Yes.
one of them is housing for your employees that currently work for the town of Provincetown, or, sorry, the town of Orleans.
So-
And if you retained ownership of it and had control of the rental, you would have municipal employees being given preference to some of the units that you might own.
So, Liz, that's a whole different discussion that
Right.
is not purview
it
of this
is.
conversation
No,
right
I know,
now.
but that's what
But
I'm wondering when we're talking about legal, like, uses that you have restrictions on.
So far, it has been the practice of this community, like Penrose and 107 Main, to designate and work with a developer. Keep control with our community agreements, but not to be in the business of running housing ourselves.
Right.
So unless that changes,
Right.
which it can, we have to ask these questions all the time. We are in a housing emergency.
Mm-hmm.
We have to. So, but it's just not on the agenda today.
That will be on the future agenda.
I
Okay.
just had a question.
Make a note.
Making a note.
You mentioned, these are, you're right, the report.
Thank you.
The recommendations from the committee that are going into the report.
Yes.
But the consultant's report isn't out.
Consultant's
So
report.
How do the two, well, I mean, I guess I'm looking at the dates. I mean, you have your recommendations that you just presented, but yet what's the consultant's report?
The consultant's report is all the work that they did with the surveys.
Oh,
And
okay,
their,
okay.
their different
Got it.
scenarios.
Okay,
Their assessment, their technical assessment of the site.
got it.
All
Okay.
of those,
All
the
of
work
that would
they
be-
did.
Okay. got
And
it.
we took that bundle of work that they did.
Right, and you've come up
And then
with.
we met several meetings, multiple
Right.
meetings over the summer to say, okay, we hear all of that.
Okay, we know you're leaving.
And
Yeah,
then we
okay,
came up
I-
with
I
our own
get it.
recommendations.
I got it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you. That was very good. That was very good.
Well, thank you, Fran, for that report and for your concern, and it's a real one.
So can I just ask a clarifying question, because it's a bit confusing for me? When we talk about possible market rate housing at Governor Prince's site, it would, what I'm hearing is that it would have to be tied into somehow subsidizing the construction of affordable or market rate, or actually just affordable at this point. Is that?
Well, the idea was that there is no funding. We can use the tax credit program for all of the subsidized, that program, for all of the subsidized housing. But if you take the missing middle, the folks that are just above that affordable area, and a developer, if they don't get some subsidy, can't financially make their numbers work it's not financially feasible for them. So could they include some market rate
Got it.
that brings in more income that allows
Offset
them
the,
to then create these other middle income units?
okay,
So that's the purpose of allowing,
okay.
or being open to the idea of market rate. Otherwise, the missing middle has no real sufficient subsidies to be created. And yes, we could ask the town to have additional subsidies, but it would have to go through a trust that is not in
Doesn't exist.
existence, because the trust in their last meeting vote not to move forward with that. So
Complicated.
it does get complicated, doesn't it?
Interesting.
Okay.
Thank you. I also asked Fran, and I've been listening to some of the meetings of the trust and the other groups that these projects, Cape Cod 5 and the 107 Main, I should call it the Penrose Cape Cod 5. I wanted to just give you an update on what's happened so far, if you haven't been following some of these meetings. And the Penrose project has 62 units, 52 of affordable housing, up to 80% AMI. It says 60 here, 80% AMI, and 10 community housing for people earning up to 110% AMI. All the permits are in place, except for the building permit, which is issued when the final plans are submitted. The low-income housing tax credits were awarded to them in August 2022, so they can complete their financing. They expect to close in January 2023 and begin construction right after that. I heard the report that I listened to, they said they were moving ahead with all of the things in anticipation of being ready when things came due, so they're being proactive in all of their responses to this. And it says construction will take about 18 months and full lease-up should be complete by January 25, which I was excited about the credits because that seemed like we were moving closer, and we are moving closer, but it's, that's the process we're now.
Getting the tax credits was really a big deal. And there were only 2 projects on the Cape that got the tax credits in this round. The other one was in Falmouth and this in Orleans. And interestingly, both of those projects are on property that's formerly owned by the Cape Cod 5 Bank. So good for them.
Yeah.
Fully
Does a
moving-
lottery system get used once things are nearing completion for, as,
Yes, they do the lottery system. As they're winding up construction, they will do the lottery and qualify residents for residency, yeah.
So we're making progress here, but it feels, it feels like slow progress. And 107 Main Street is 14 units for people earning up to 80% AMI. Architectural review, site plan review, and the septic system have all been approved. The Zoning Board of Appeals has continued the 40B hearing and will reconvene on September 7th for one more meeting, hopefully, to approve. HAC has received $1 million American Recovery Plan assistance funding that they had hoped to get, and they did receive that. Since this small development is not eligible for
Tax credits.
tax credits, there will be a notice of funding availability from the Department of Housing and Community Development for housing stabilization funding in early 2023, and HAC will apply for that. So both of these projects are on target, they're moving forward, they've got good leadership on both of them, and that part is encouraging. And the discouraging part is it's not there today. And we're looking at needs for the future, and we already know what the needs for the current are, so.
Frustration.
And that's, do you have any comments on any of that from anyone? I just wanted to keep us up to date on what's going on. And one of the, we're going to discuss future agenda items, and one of the future agenda items is the website group is still trying to meet. We have a meeting on September 12th, and so when we come back in October, we will have a report from that. And one of my major goals is to find what Fran and I, we all just talked about, to find some way to get it on this website that makes sense to people so they can see what we're talking about and what the timing is for that. And hopefully to come up with some other ideas for the interim while we're trying to get these things completed. So that will be one of the topics for next time. And before I go to the next topic, let me give you a minute, if you'd like just to tell just a little bit about yourself. This is a public
Sure.
venue, so you can say as little or as much as you'd like to say.
Sure. So my brain just went blank.
Okay.
I've been on Cape Cod my entire life. I actually graduated from NASA in 2002. I grew up in Wellfleet. My family has been on the Cape for 16 generations, so I'm very familiar with the sort of local genre and sort of the things that are happening. I've been with the town of Provincetown now for 5.5 years. My job title there is Secretary of the Select Board. I am the staff liaison to the staff. I work in conjunction with the town manager, the assistant town manager, the community development director, the finance director, along with all the department heads to coordinate and facilitate the sort of compiling of the packet, and then I also deal with 90% of the complaints and things like that. I have sat through and participated in several years of housing workshops. I've attended housing workshops. I am very adamant about housing because I've experienced it personally firsthand. I was lucky enough to purchase Ann Phillips's house in 2018. Anybody who's familiar with the history of Orleans knows that Ann Phillips was the town nurse for 50 years. I am now very much feeling like I have a second family with them because I talk to them a lot and communicate with them about, how things were and things like that. I decided to become involved in housing because I have sat, again, through the conversations, and I'm realizing that we still have conversations in the same way that we had 10 years ago. That the discussions that we're having, the language that we're having, the approach to dealing with housing is the same. We have been dealing with it in the same way. The practice of Orleans not owning the property has been a practice. It doesn't mean it needs to continue. Some of the ideas that I have are very radical in the sense of changing sort of the mentality of how we approach things, because we have to do that or we're not going to address the problem, is how I feel. So I realize that one of the ways to do that is to sit on this side versus sitting on the other side of the room. And I hear things and I see things that are very different. My educational background is I have a master's certificate in public administration from Suffolk. So I did go to school for this as well. So some of the things I do pick up quicker because of my background in my job and, what I do. And some of the conversations I would like to have, I recognize will cause a lot of ripples. And the reason why I want to have them, though, is I do feel that if we do not do drastic changes and drastic approaches, we are still going to be having the same conversation in 10 years and looking at the same problem. And it's just going to continue to get worse. So that is my background. That is why I'm here. And so some of the things I might say for topic ideas might be very shocking to you.
Okay.
But I think that we need to start exploring, and definitely exploring financial commitments from the town that are going to be much bigger commitments than what the town has ever probably seen. So that is
Okay.
sort of my
Great.
spiel.
Thank you.
And you do have someone else who else do believes that as well, who's Marcia, who's spoken to that point several times.
Yeah, so
So I think,
I guess I'll give like a prime example, the Governor Prince project. I would love to see that being retained by the town. I would love to see that, completely funded by the town, because the moment you take in HUD funding, you're restricting yourself. Or the moment you're using, CPA funding, you're restricting yourself. I think that if we are handing over a project that does 77 units to a developer and you're not keeping it, in the mindset of this is the town and we're not looking to profit at all, you can have a control over those units in a way that you've never been able to do if you hand it over to a developer. You can have a management company come in and manage the rentals, but I'm seeing, in Provincetown, we are not able to retain or retract employees because they can't find housing. So, this problem of housing is going to have a trickle effect. It already is having a trickle effect. Your employees, as they start to retire and you start replacing them, are going to, those people coming in and finding housing is getting more difficult. So when we would talk about municipal uses, I think about, we have employees who we're bringing in, our school teachers, our firemen, our police officers, our DPW workers, even our secretaries within the health department, planning department. They're going to need housing, and where are we going to put them? And if you have units that are controlled by the town and you're able to establish units that have employee preference of the town of Orleans, then you can provide that as a service to your employees.
Liz,
So
are-
radical ideas, but
Mm.
Well,
this
that
is the way my brain
All right.
thinks.
Discussion.
And that
Liz,
is
are
why
there-
Scott McDonald wants to be part of this discussion as well, and the fire chief and everyone who's got
Right.
the same issue what we've been talking about, and you're right about the 10 years. I've only lived here that long, but we have been talking.
Yep, and we have mile radius restrictions on our paramedics and firemen.
right.
It's 7 miles, so give me a 7-mile radius
Yeah.
with the salary that we currently pay, where you can put in a new EMT firefighter.
Right.
You know, even if we're building these housings, then you're dealing with the income restrictions. You have 2 people working, 1 person working, they can't go into these units. So that's how I think, and if we're thinking that this projection's not going to be done till 2028, salaries in 2028 are going to be a lot higher than they are right now. So,
Yeah.
Assuming there's people here to work,
right, so,
which is also a big assumption.
Yeah.
You know, so we're talking.
Yeah.
I just had a question for Liz. Are there communities on the Cape already who are using this model of a town-owned and managed properties?
yes,
Yeah, where,
we have one in Provincetown.
you do? And how long has that been?
So we voted that in 2017,
17?
Would you remind us
what
how
is the
much
name
the
of that?
town put up to purchase that
Sure.
project?
$12 million. So if you're going to be building a project with 77 units, I would estimate it to being a lot higher. And I understand that. Again, it would be a very large financial commitment. I think the trust, as you've already said, has money that would be able to contribute to some of the units that you could to do the high-density development of 77 units, you have to have a certain percentage of them being income restricted. I do acknowledge that. I understand that. But I think based on what I read, and I could be wrong, but I think it's about like 25%. And then, of course, you have like the other units that then get added into it to make the number as high as it is. So if you're looking at even 30 units that you can remove income restrictions from, and you could put restrictions such as a municipal employee, or, a school employee, and something like that, it's a municipal use because they need to have housing. To bring in new elementary school teachers, middle school teachers, we need housing. To bring in new DPW, water technicians, you name it, they're going to need a house to live in. And as we are looking at retirement increasing for the municipal employees we currently have, I mean, I can't speak for George, but I'm assuming he'll be retiring in the next 10 years. Who are you going to bring in to replace him, and where are you going to put them?
Where are you gonna build?
So this is, the issue that the Cape is having, and the issues that, in Provincetown, we're seeing critical, we are restricted with who's even applying because, the housing restrictions of, the drive, all that kind of stuff. So even as we increase the pay, what then happens are employees that are living in units could potentially be kicked out of them, So we're seeing that currently.
Would you name that project?
Sure, it's they actually created a trust. They did a special act in 2017 in February. They did the money, and it's the year-round rental market rate housing trust. And the project is Harbor Hill, and it's 27 units that they purchased. And I would say there's quite a number of municipal employees that are working there. I don't know whether or not they have the restriction that requires them. I think that would again be a different topic. But I think that I think the biggest thing that I would find when you're talking to people about this is you need to name jobs that people can understand of what you're talking about. So when you're saying you're DPW water technician, people can understand that. When you're saying you're, fire department paramedic,
Sure.
people understand that. When you're saying you're second grade elementary school teacher, I don't think you necessarily need to name the person, but I think you can definitely name the position and types of jobs. And I think it's going to be a need in 10 years that you're going to have.
Well, the conversation floats around that all the time, but it's the next step is what to do about it.
And I think if we turn the ownership of that project over to a company such as, Community Development Builders, you're going to lose that ability to have some of that control. In my personal opinion, everyone can disagree, I
Okay,
promise.
well,
All
thank
right.
you for sharing that.
Thank you. Yeah.
And any other topics for, one other one that we had on a while ago that I don't know if we want to try this or not, it was we wanted to invite the CDP homeless prevention, accessory dwelling group, that they've got some money for doing that, to see if we can find any other ways to get that to happen. That's an interim kind of a thing. We've been trying, it hasn't been very successful getting the accessory dwellings up and running, but
So I think the problem with the accessory dwelling units is that the startup money does not exist. Right now, you don't have access to it. So if you have the property and the ability to build on it, but you can't get your funding through the bank until you get through the town, there's a gap. So, who's going to help you with the, architect and the land surveyor that need to be coming in to work with you? And, I think that I have looked into this for my own property. I have 44,000 square acres. And, where am I going to come up with the $20,000 I need?
4,000 square acres.
Sorry, it's 44,000 square feet. I apologize.
Say,
That's a
whoa,
lot.
can we
Wow.
use some of that for building?
I own the whole, yeah. No, sorry, I have 44,000 square feet. I have a 3-bedroom, and I have the land mass and the septic capabilities to adding a cottage. But the financial, there's a separation between the money that would be available to me between when I want to start the project and when I want to do the project. And when I looked on it for myself, and what I've heard back from different feedback, is sort of the funds to come up with with the money you would need to pay towards the architect and, your surveyor.
So I think
Maybe
it would be
that's-
very
I think it'd be
interesting
neat to bring
To
them
have
in.
that
to have them
conversation.
come and tell us about their new program. It's $1 million of ARPA funding
Right.
for homeless prevention and CBP to
Yep.
create this ADU program.
I'd like to invite them to a meeting either October or November, if
That'd be
everybody
great.
agrees. I think that would be, we've been wanting to do that, but other things have got in
That's
the
both
way.
CDP and Homeless Prevention
Homeless
Council?
Yeah. They got a $1 million ARPA
For
grant.
grant, okay.
Is there anything else? Because that's,
See, I had a question, which is not really a future agenda, but when we were looking at the RFP pieces, I just wrote down this question. With the 2017 report, was a summary ever written of progress toward meeting some of those goals? I didn't know if that's something this committee does, or if it's all verbal, or...
Ward Gorey on the trust has an ongoing piece that he writes that is an update of all the projects and all the accomplishments on each project along the way. And he updates that periodically.
for the trust, but
For the
maybe
trust.
that's
For the
something
trust,
that
but
we
it
could
includes
add to
all,
it.
it includes all of us. It includes the works of the committee as well as the trust.
But the audience is the trust.
No, the audience is the public.
And where is it?
It's on the website,
On the
actually.
website. Well, there you go, on their website,
Our website.
our website.
Well, I think it's in the town's website. I'll check it out, Nancy.
Okay, we'll find out more
Seemed
about
like the
that.
kind of thing that,
Yeah.
that would be great for the public to see, especially as we launch
Yeah.
this next
Yeah.
Yep.
report.
I'm not sure when his last update was, but yeah.
Yeah.
You could prompt him to do one.
Okay, anything else? We got quite a list already, we don't have to keep adding. I think we can take care of this, it'll be fine, but anything else? Last call, sir?
Quick question, related to your previous conversations, right?
I think you
Yes.
probably need to go to the mic and introduce yourself.
Hi, Jeff Talmadge, 14 Fells Lane. One, it's just great to be here. It's fun to listen to you all. But I'm very new to this, so I might ask stupid questions. Has the town done an assessment of a 5 or 10-year housing need? To Liz's points of when so-and-so retires, where's the replacement going to live? Has the town studied that, or should the town study that so that there's sort of a grand plan for what's needed? And as these wonderful new projects fire up, they kind of fit into a master plan?
You're talking about an employee analysis of what's,
Well, housing needs that the town would need to stimulate, as opposed to just the free market free-for-all that's going on through the realtors.
I think there's something in one of the.
But particularly to, perhaps, and again, I'm just sort of making this up as I go along here, but particularly town employees. What kind of housing demands do we need to run the town smoothly? So we have the teachers and the cops and the nurses and EMTs and all that.
I feel we talked about this, and I think it's in this RFP, but I've not seen it
Say
right now.
surveys of employees of the town public
Yeah,
school
it is.
system.
Yeah,
But I
that's
think
part of the
businesses-
study.
But I think your point is also not just survey the town employees, but survey that, have the town be part of that projection as well. That's a good point. I think we can add that
So
too.
you're saying that is part of the RFP, or?
Well,
Yeah, it's-
as part of surveying town employees, maybe individually, but maybe the town
Well, that's
as a
something
general.
that the RFP winner would do, to give us that information. Is that what you're
Correct.
saying? Okay, that'd be great. Okay,
Good
thank
question. Thank you for asking it.
Good point.
And thank you for your interest in what we're trying to do here. All right, I think we are at a conclusion. Do I have a motion to approve the May 3rd minutes?
So move.
Seconded?
I'm going to abstain from that since I
Okay,
wasn't
any,
here.
no corrections or additions, so all in favor?
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 1. Thank you. I did not put, the next meeting is actually October 4th. I did not put that at the bottom, but that is, will be our next scheduled meeting. Now may I take a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good.